Welcome to the Get Sculpted podcast. We're your hosts, Tijana,
Jordana,
and Marilyn.
This podcast is all about cutting through the noise and giving you the real deal on fat loss, muscle building, and what it really takes to build your 2.0 sculpted self, inside and out. Our motto is to work smarter, not harder. We'll break down science-based and actionable strategies to optimize your metabolism, ditch the diets, and create a sustainable, fit, and healthy lifestyle that actually works for you. So if you're ready to get stronger, not just skinnier, and embrace a body you love, hit that subscribe button and let's get sculpted. All right. Hello and welcome to a solo episode of the pod. This is Coach T here, and we are going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is different types of resistance training and which is best for transforming your body. Now, this was inspired by a recent conversation, actually a few conversations I've had with people about what they're doing and whether or not it's bringing them closer to their goals. So I had a chat with someone and she said, I actually think I'm okay on the resistance training side of things. I don't think that's really what I need support with, because we were chatting about like, hey, this is what we can do and Get Sculpted. This is the kind of results that I want. And she said, I actually feel like I just might need the nutrition side and not the training side. And here's the thing. From my perspective, having been in the fitness game 13 plus years, having done various types of fitness, like it's very kind of obvious to me that like, hey, what is being done here is not optimal for building muscle. But to someone who's just starting resistance training or even started like a year ago or 2 years ago and has been self-guided, it all might kind of look the same. You might think, but I am doing resistance training. I am doing weight training and I've been doing it consistently. And that means that I'm good in that department. So that's what prompted me to create this episode, is to really break down like, what are the types of resistance training out there? Are they all created equal? Are they all going to help get me that result that I want? What is the result I want ultimately? That's number one. So this is going to be a little bit more of a sciencey one, but I'm going to break it down for you in a way that is very easy to understand. So let's dive right in. So if you're in this scenario, you are someone who's working out. Your problem is not consistency. You are like, all right, I know I should be working out and I've started resistance training, but you know, for someone who works out as much as I do, I don't really look like I work out. Well, it could be your nutrition, number one, for sure, but it could also be the way that you are training. It's more important the way that you're training than the fact that you're training. And I always use the analogy of someone saying, hey, I really want to get rich and I'm just going to work really hard and I'm going to get there. Oh, what are you doing? I'm working at McDonald's. All right, well, I hate to break it to you, but you're not going to get rich working at McDonald's. You might not even get rich working any kind of job just for income. You get rich by investing and having the skills to be able to do that and to produce a high level of income. So see, it's a little bit more nuanced, right? It's not just a matter of working hard. It's the same thing with putting in more effort into training and exercise. So even if you are exercising, you might be building some momentum in the right direction for sure. And the fact that you have a hardworking attitude is huge. And the fact that you're moving your body in any which way is great. Like, we want to celebrate that. I'm not here to poo-poo on that and say, you know, you got to be lifting better. Well, I mean, you do got to be lifting more strategically and better if you want to see certain results. But to just get healthy and move your body, we want to celebrate that too. But let's talk about like what the different types of resistance training are specifically, not just training in general, not just cardio versus weights. What types of weight training are there? And what is best suited for the goal that you want? Especially important if your goal is to have a visibly toned and sculpted body. Okay, so let's dive in. First of all, what is resistance training? All right, so we're going to open the textbook now of what this term actually means. Resistance training means training your muscles against a force. So that force could be a dumbbell, barbell, machines, cables. It could be resistance bands. It could even be your own body weight. All of these are a type of resistance and they all have their place for certain outcomes, but only some of these types of resistance are actually going to change the way your body looks. Okay, so this is where most women get stuck. They just think resistance training, gotcha. I don't need to know anything else. I got this. There's this girl on YouTube who does these 30-minute, just grab your baby and do some mountain climbers and I'm good. No, it's the way you're training that matters more than the fact that you're training. All right. Number one, here are the different types. First, we have hypertrophy training, just a fancy word for building muscle, increasing muscle size. And you might be thinking, all right, tuning out immediately, Tijana, because I don't want to increase nothing. I want to decrease. I want to tone. All right, listen, if you want to look like you work out, you want muscle. If you want to look toned, you want muscle. Muscle is not easy to get. You can't go to the corner store and say, I'll have a muscle, please. You got to work for it. All right. That's what hypertrophy training is. This is for someone with a goal of building muscle, changing the shape of your physique. This is bodybuilding style lifting. And this is what's going to create a toned look. Then we have strength training, training for strength. This means you're training to lift as heavy as you possibly can relative to your own body weight. This is what we think of like power lifters. If you're not familiar with that, it means people who they have a weight class that they're like, all right, you weigh this much and we're going to try and lift as heavy as we can in our weight class. I'm not exactly sure the classes or how powerlifting works in that respect, but I know you're trying to lift as heavy as possible for your weight. Like if I'm 130 pounds and I'm lifting 250 pounds, that's pretty good. Or 260 pounds, that's twice my body weight. I'm training for strength. But just because I'm lifting twice my body weight doesn't mean that I'm training for building muscle. All right. So we're going to talk about that because there's crossover, but they don't all do the same thing. Okay. Same thing with when we come back to the hypertrophy training. If I'm training to build muscle, well, I might not be the strongest person at the gym, right? I might be 5 feet tall and 100 pounds and ripped and have tons of muscle and be hitting a stage, but maybe I'm lifting like half my body weight or barely moving any weight at all. So this is where they're not always the same. Okay. Number 3 is training for muscle endurance. So this means how much repetitions can you do over time? The goal here is not usually aesthetic. It's for performance. So like this is your light weights for high reps. So this is your boot camps, your HIIT with dumbbells. This is what most app-based workouts that you do at home are going to fall under. So this is where you are going to be very sweaty and feeling a burn because you're doing a lot in less time, right? Like lots of reps with light weight. But this is not going to give you enough resistance to be able to build muscle. You might build a little bit of muscle. You might get somewhere. It's not like you will get nowhere doing that. This is like the mommy workouts where it's like, hey, we're just going to grab a dumbbell. All you need is a 10-pound dumbbell and 30 minutes of your time, and you will be breaking a sweat, girl, and you're going to tone that post-baby body. Well, you're going to break a sweat, but you're not going to tone your body, especially past a certain point, because you're not giving your body any resistance to go against. One day you're doing the fabulous core, the next day you're doing the boost your booty, and then the next week you're just doing whatever YouTube video they uploaded. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no customization. There's just the same lightweight with random things repeated. All right. So now muscle endurance training, I should say, sometimes is applicable based on what you need. Like if you're training to be on a rowing team, like an actual rowing a boat, like you're going to need to probably do some endurance training when it comes to like higher reps with back exercises. And you're not training to get the most ripped back, right? Like you're training to get the most back that can row the most. And same thing for training for sport. A lot of these are endurance sports. Like if you're training to run a marathon or like a distance race, like you want your legs to be strong enough to be able to withstand running a long distance, but you're not training for the most ripped legs. Now you're going to have more muscle on your legs than someone who does nothing, but you're still not optimizing that training for that result. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. So another type of training is going to be CrossFit training or like functional training. I hate the word functional because that's such an overused word, because anything that is serving a purpose for your everyday life is functional. Like if I'm a bodybuilder and I need big biceps, bicep training is functional. If I'm 100 and I'm trying to get off the toilet seat, just doing box squats with body weight is functional. So coming back to it, CrossFit. So this is a mix of movements, actually. I wouldn't even classify CrossFit as just a type of weight training. It's a sport that encompasses endurance training, strength training, and hypertrophy training, and aerobic exercise too. It's not just targeted to just the physique element. So a lot of people do CrossFit because they're like, I want to get ripped. And you do have an element of like lifting heavy, but you also are not just targeting building big muscles with CrossFit. Okay, then we have bands and body weight. So this is a form of resistance training. Like you're training against a resistance. You're doing, whether that be plyometrics, like you're doing jump squats, you're doing push-ups, you're doing pull-ups, you're doing maybe some banded movements, band squats, you name it. The sky's the limit. All right. So straight up, this is not going to give you enough resistance to build muscle. This is good for people who are in scenarios maybe like rehab where, you're just trying to regain your glute function after an injury maybe, or like, I just had a hip replacement. I'm trying to move my hip again through full range of motion. And my physio told me to do lateral band walks. Or if you're traveling and you're like, hey, I just want to keep a routine. I want to get a muscle pump. I just want to keep the body moving. I want to start my day in my hotel room, not just by sitting. I want to engage my glutes a little bit. I want to warm up. That's great. But again, if you're doing this, like I'm in my living room doing Susie's booty burner with a band, that's not going to be enough to take your booty from like 35 inches to 38 inches around. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it means you're not going to grow your booty with bands, period. Your glute is the strongest muscle in your body. It needs way more than just bands to grow. And if you need proof of that, another thing that I want to kind of sidebar into is mass moves mass. All right. So the more you weigh, the more weight you can handle lifting. Because if I'm 100 pounds and I'm lifting 200 pounds, I'm a lot stronger and lifting more resistance than if I were 300 pounds and lifting 100 pounds. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so sidebar, like if you are bigger, you're going to need more resistance, not just bands, especially. So no matter who you are, you probably need to lift heavier than you think, but especially if you're someone who has weight to lose, then you have leverage. Your mass can move mass. And I don't mean that in any bad way whatsoever. I just mean that you're stronger than you think. So you definitely shouldn't be lifting light. And you definitely should not be lifting body weight in bands in that scenario. Next, we have Pilates and bar. All right, so I have nothing against these things, by the way. What we want to hammer home here is that they need to be specific to the goal you're trying to achieve. And this is one that, if you've seen my content, you know that I do speak a lot about, like, can we please stop saying that Pilates helps lengthen your muscles? It doesn't do that. And that is 100% true. It doesn't mean I don't like Pilates. Heck, I would love to actually do some Pilates maybe once in a blue moon. Just, even a weekly Pilates class would be great to engage some of those smaller muscles. Because what Pilates does, and bar and all those things, they're going to improve your mobility. So your control through full range of motion, and they're going to help improve your nervous system and neuromuscular control more than your actual muscle stimulation. So they're not going to actually give you enough resistance for your muscles to grow. And you might be thinking, oh, that's okay. I don't want muscle growth anyway. Okay, let me put it to you this way. If you grew your muscles to the maximum capability that you could naturally, you would never be overly jacked. That's worth repeating, because any of these things that you're doing, if you're doing it naturally with no enhancements, no performance enhancing drugs or steroids or anything like that, which I'm assuming you're not if you're worried about getting too big, you're never going to be too big, even if you're doing the best kind of training to build muscle. So when you're doing things like Pilates and bar, you don't ever need to worry about doing light versions of resistance training, because it's not going to do anything when it comes to shaping your body. It's not that it's just doing a little bit. It's not doing anything in that respect. Again, it's good for neuromuscular control, improving your mobility, your finer muscles, like your deep core muscles. It's excellent for that. Your stabilizer muscles, especially in your pelvis, which can help you with your big lifts, but it's not enough on its own. Then we have general health training. Okay, so, let's say you have a senior citizen who's 80 and never lifted, and they're like, gosh, I'm really worried about having a fall and fracturing my hip. Well, we're going to get them started with still resistance training, right? But now we're just training your basic movements with as much resistance as they can tolerate and not have a risk of injury. Maybe we're doing some, like chair yoga, or like we're doing some things with like the Pilates ball, some resistance, but like we're certainly not pushing for like Arnold Schwarzenegger type of weights for this kind of person. Now, this person who's 80, they don't care about building big muscles. They want muscles that take them through life in a functional way. Now, these types of movements, don't think I have to tell you, doing chair yoga is not going to help you get ripped. And you're probably not doing chair yoga if you're listening to this, just knowing our demographic. Nothing wrong with chair yoga, by the way. But even I would say for senior citizens, it is not enough. So that's a whole other sidebar, is we all need to be lifting weights with enough resistance to build a significant amount of muscle, because muscle is the organ of longevity. Tying this all together, all of these different modalities, I want you to think of a big umbrella, and that umbrella is resistance training, and it's all training against a force. And that force varies. We established that. And there's crossover, right? Like if I'm doing CrossFit, I'm getting a little bit of muscle building. I'm getting a little bit of athletic training. I'm working my aerobic system. I'm also training for strength because I'm going to be hitting some PRs. And I'm kind of crossing over all elements of fitness. And I have nothing against CrossFit. I've done CrossFit type training, and I would try CrossFit myself, but I would not have that be my only source of training, because my goal from my training is to shape my body primarily. And on the flip side, you might be saying, okay, I want to shape my body, but I also want my body to move well. This is what people tell me all the time. I want to be 70, 80. I want to be playing with my grandkids on the floor. I don't want to have to like hold on to my desk when I'm getting up off the floor. I want to ride bikes with my family, like until my kids are teens and young adults, and then with my grandkids. Like that's what I want to be doing. And then if you're like, but also I want to look hot. I want to put on those jean shorts and not have a saggy pancake butt. I want like a big, juicy booty. I want a boosted booty. I want capped shoulders. I want ab lines. And I want you to look at me and think, holy crap, that girl definitely works out. I want them to tell my husband, like, you really lucked out with that one. Like, that's perfectly fine. And those two things don't need to be mutually exclusive. Like, they cross over, right? Like, so you could be resistance training. Everyone always says, oh, I'm training for my old lady body. I'm not training for my summer body. Why can't you train for both? You can train for your summer body and your old lady body. So those two things can cross over. So you can say, I'm training ultimately to build a body that takes me through life, but I'm also training for a body that's going to make me look hot now because I'm living in my body now. I want to look good now. I also want an immediate benefit. That's okay. So if you're listening to this podcast, this is for you if you not only want the health benefit, but you want the aesthetic benefit too. You want to look like you work out. Maybe you don't even want to look super, super ripped, but you just want to keep your weight off. You want to look lean. Well, guess what? You're going to need muscle for that. And this is really what I want to talk to you about here is that muscle is hard to build. And this conversation that I spoke to this person about really prompted me to hammer this home that just because you're doing something and staying active, you could have a whole year go by and you still look the same because that year wasn't really spent using your time efficiently to build muscle. So I equate it with someone saying, hey, no thanks, I'm not going to use AI. I'm not going to use ChatGPT to write my code for my website or whatever. I'm going to write out the code by hand and I'm going to get there. Okay, I know, I'm sure you will make some leeway, but your time is not going to be efficient whatsoever. Like if you think about even how people did anything 100 years ago, even 10 years ago, right? Like now we know, hey, we can actually achieve the same result in less time and with less effort. Like, wouldn't you want that? And much like AI, you might be resistant and say, oh, but that's not how I've done things. I know, but if you could do things more efficiently and get more out of less time, why wouldn't you? Like if you're doing these classes on an app, the apps are not designed to get you ripped, by the way. They're just designed to keeping you coming back. Not in a bad way, but these general people apps are going to get you general people results. Like, hey, Apple Fitness. Okay, great. You're getting your butt off your chair. You're getting moving. You're breaking a sweat. And that's what they want for you. They want you to be like, I feel good immediately now. They don't want you to think, okay, I'm going to grow my shoulders or my glutes by 2 inches 6 months from now. They're thinking, no, we just want you to keep coming back to our app so that you feel good. So we've established that using these apps, much like this conversation that I had with this person, is not going to be what's optimal. So in her case, she's like, I want to mostly just stay lean and be able to look like someone who works out and look toned. And she thought, but I think that my thing is only the nutrition. Now, what I said to her was all right, if you're shopping for cars, like luxury cars, and you said, I like this car, but I don't think I need such a fancy engine. I think I just need a basic engine. Well, the person at Porsche or Bentley or whatever might say, yeah, I know you might come and say, the engine doesn't look like it's really doing anything. I already have an engine, but I know the car and I know that this engine is going to help the car drive to its maximum capacity and ability. And you're not really getting the full Porsche or Bentley or Ferrari experience. And by the way, I'm not a car person. So if you're like, there's better cars you could have used, I'm sorry. But you're not going to get the full experience when you are not doing the full extent of what you could be doing. So if you're trying to change your physique shape and stay lean, like this person I had a conversation with, this is what you need to be doing. Okay, let's make this very tactical. Number one, you need to be lifting heavy for you. And quite honestly, you're probably not going to know what that means because you're new to lifting. I would add that if you've been lifting weights for even a few years, but you've never had any professional guidance, you could still be in that category because if you've only been doing self-guided things and never had any kind of feedback loop or gotten anyone who is an expert in the field to say, yes, your form is correct. Yes, the weight you're using is correct. Yes, this type of training that you're doing is appropriate for your goal. Or to assess your progress and say, yes, this is the type of progress you should be seeing. Well, girl, 4 or 5 years could go by and we could still call you a beginner. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, I've seen a lot of people in this scenario. They're like, I had a trainer 10 years ago for 3 sessions. I'm good. No, not really. Because in that whole time in 10 years, you've been repeating the same exercises with the weight that's way too light. And they're exercises that are not optimal for your goal anyway. So, sorry, sidebar. Coming back to it, this is what you should be doing, all right? You want to select exercises that are going to shape the areas you want to shape or strengthen the areas you want to strengthen. Okay, I want a big booty. Okay, great. We're going to be doing Bulgarian split squats. We're going to be doing hip thrusts. We're going to be doing RDLs. Let's just say, just a few of my favorites, right? Oh, you need more side booty. We're going to be doing abductions. But again, we don't want to just do the prehab rehab exercises. We need to be lifting with enough resistance to stimulate muscle growth. This means you need to be getting your way around the gym with barbells, with dumbbells, with cables, with heavy weights, with any weights that you can progress with week to week. And you're not going to know what heavy means in the beginning. You're going to be like, well, Tijana, I did 20 reps with my band and my booty's burning. Right, but a booty burning is different than training to failure with a barbell. So this is really where you want to get used to eventually working up to some kind of baseline strength targets. Like we give our clients strength targets after their 6 months with us in our program, just to make sure that they are indeed lifting heavy enough because we work with them virtually. So for example, we want you lifting, I think it's 1.25 of your body weight for your hip thrusts, at least by then. And if you're like, oh my God, I'm 200 pounds, but I'm lifting 100 pounds of my hip thrust. See, this is where like you need to have an understanding of what heavy is like. And typically you're going to stay in that 8 to 12 rep range. So you're going to have your exercises that are for you to sculpt your body. And these are not magic exercises that everybody should be doing. Although there's a lot of crossover, I will say. If you're like, hey, I need to build a booty, you got to be doing these. If you want to be doing this, you got to be doing this. So you establish your exercises. Then you are going to lift about 8 to 12 reps for most of them. That's a good place to start. Now you can build muscle in the fewer than 8 reps range or higher than 12 rep range. But on either sides of that, you're going to have either mostly strength training or mostly endurance training. We want hypertrophy training, which is in the middle. So it's more optimal to stick in that middle range and train to failure. And then you're not going to do something different every week. You're not going to like pump in and, oh, I'm doing a Peloton class. I'm doing my favorite instructor with my bar. No, you're going to stick with the same weight training lifts week to week. And here's the kicker. All right. You're going to want to sit down for this one. Even if you're doing all the right things and your nutrition is dialed in, by the way, which means you're eating the right macros, not just that you're eating clean, that you're eating enough to stimulate muscle growth. That's a whole separate podcast. Yeah, it's going to take months and years to significantly change your shape. Not to see any results, because you will, but it's not going to take days and weeks. Because people will be like, gosh, I'm taking a booty selfie and I see nothing. How long have you been training? Like 2 months. Oh, girl, listen, if a year goes by, let me put it to you this way. Best case scenario, you get a trainer, get a coach, learn the right exercises with the right form. You're doing everything perfectly from the get-go. You never miss a week of training. Let's say you train 50 out of 52 weeks of that year. Best case, you put on 10 pounds of muscle mass, which is like absolutely crushing it in your first year. Most people don't do that. Most people get a self-guided app. They do things on their own. They spend a year staying active, dipping their feet in the water. But a year goes by, they still look the same, or they have a little bit of momentum. I feel stronger, but I don't see any muscle definition. And the original goal was to see muscle definition. Okay, coming back to what we should be doing. Now, I framed that for you because I wanted you to stay realistic with what's actually possible for you to achieve. Okay, so we have the lifts, we have the rep range, and then learning to lift with the right intensity. You want to really be able to gauge like what does failure look like and feel like. I can't lift the weight anymore. It's not coming off the ground at all. Like it's just not coming up. Most people don't get there. They think, ooh, I feel a burn. Failure. But it's the mental that blocks us more than the physical. And if you're not lifting with the right form, you could be trying to push to failure, but then you get injured and you don't want that. So you got to understand, like, it's more about how you lift than the fact that you're lifting. So what I'm saying is pretty simple, right? You select the right exercises and you repeat them. And you repeat them every week. And then you repeat them some more. And you don't just repeat them for 2 weeks. You don't just repeat them for 2 months. You could actually stay with the same exact program for a year if you wanted, but at least 6-week cycles where you're repeating the same movements. And every week you're going to add a little weight. You're going to be like, all right, I'm strong today, but next week I'm even stronger. And you're going to keep adding that. And that is how you build muscle. And eventually you're going to look in the mirror and say, wow, I have a booty that I can flex. I have a bicep peak. I have some quad definition. My legs are shapely. They're not just like hot dogs. They are like drumsticks. And that comes with putting in the reps time and time again. But it doesn't just come because you're staying consistent. I'm sure that you are a high achieving woman and you put in the effort and you're consistent and you already have it in your schedule and you already have committed mentally to it. And there's something massive to be said for that. But why not spend the time you're already dedicating to your fitness routine and spend it in a way that is going to actually move the needle in the best way that you can? So if you got some value out of this, I would love to know. Please share this. Tag me, Coach Tijana Daily. Tag Get Sculpted at getsculpted.ca. We'll leave that all in the show notes. Let me know your takeaway. Let me know, heck, if you thought I was being too tough love, if I was too mean, just freaking let me know. Let me have it. If you agree with me and you're like, girl, I needed this. Thank you for helping me humble myself out of what I was doing and, gaslighting myself into saying it was working. It wasn't. And now I'm going to try something different. Let me know. Send me a DM. I love to hear it. As always, if you got some value, give us your comments. We always appreciate them. Send in your fan mail. We read them all, so we do appreciate that. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Get Sculpted. We hope you feel inspired, empowered, and ready to take the next step in your fitness journey. Remember, building your 2.0 body is a unique journey for you. It's about showing up for yourself consistently and not being perfect.
If you loved today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a review and tag us on social at getsculpted.ca. Your feedback helps us reach more women like you who are ready to cut through the noise and make lasting changes.
For more daily tips, inspiration, and behind-the-scenes content, follow us on Instagram and check out our handles in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on Get Sculpted. Until then, remember this: getting sculpted isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter.